finally, I'm just going to touch on the future. We all don't know what's going to happen in April. Next, that woman again, May, she's haunting me. I'm not going to do the dance. February 2018, there was an announcement made by government that 5-year electrical safety checks are going to become compulsory. Don't know if anybody knew that. They've not actually said when this is going to happen yet, but what the government like to do is tell you at the last minute. So, you know, the 30th of March, they tell you it's coming in on the 1st of April. So just be aware of that. Now, some of you might, as a matter of course, do 5-year electrical checks anyway, and that's great. But it's not compulsory like it is for the gas. So I just want you to be aware of that. This month, there was an announcement made, they're bringing in a housing court. So it's looking like local courts are going to come away from dealing with any issues with tenants and landlords. They're going to actually have a special court just for us. So it's just to be aware of that's coming in. We all know about the tenant fee ban. Now, are you aware that it will apply to landlords as well as agents?
I don't know what it is.
Well, what happened is backstory, I don't want to blather on too long. Again, there's a lot of corporate letting agents charge their tenants, their applicants, a lot of money to apply to rent a property. Yeah? Some of the corporates are charging just shy of £1,000 before you've even got to the point of passing your references and paying a deposit. Shelter got on this and lobbied government, and the government made an announcement that in April 2019 they're going to blanket ban fees. Now, we're not quite sure the nitty-gritties of this yet, they're still working it all out. But what it means is, if you haven't got fees that are agreed in your tenancy agreements, you will not be able to charge them as an agent or a landlord. And what we're talking about are things like, if you get to turf out and let a tenant in at 10 o'clock because they've locked himself out. Now, if you're a business person, because you should be if you're a private landlord, you can't charge them a fee unless it's in your tenancy agreement. So what we need to be looking at now, and I've already changed all mine, is that the fees are in your tenancy agreements. Because if you think about 6 months from now, 7 months from now, 10 months from now, that fee band's going to have come in. And if you haven't got those fees in your agreements, you're not going to be able to charge the tenant for it. So it's just to be aware of that. Now, we can help you. Quite happy to sit down with you, look at your information, your tenancy agreements, make sure you're compliant. But now's the time to be looking at that and changing things, so it doesn't catch you out in April. And then just one thing, if you've got a letting agent looking after your portfolio or your property, from April 2019, we've all got to have what's called client money protection, which basically means they can't, if they beggar off to Barbados with your money, you'll get your money back. We've always had that as a franchise, but now all agents are going to have that from 2019. Excuse me. And one thing that came out in the news recently is that there's concerns that if you haven't got cover now, you're not going to get it, because these insurance companies are getting very jittery about it. So I'd be asking your agents now, have you got client money protection? And just a couple of other things. There's talk that there's 3-year tenancies coming in. It's not anywhere near where it should be in government yet, but if you're a landlord and you don't agree with that, you need to be lobbying now, because we can make a difference and a change now.
Is that the thing, I've read about this, 3 years, they've got a 3-year tenancy, and then they've got the right to buy it or something?
Not necessarily right to buy, but they will be tied into your property for 3 years. Now, they're talking that there might be some exemptions, but again, this is all pie in the sky at the moment, yeah? However, you need to be making noises now if you disagree with this, because it's under consultation at the moment.
Is that, oh, so it is under consultation,
Yeah.
It's not just Corbonomics?
No. No, I mean, the thing is, I think that whichever government will bring that in.
Right.
It's vote grabbing, isn't it? And then finally, the other thing that's being talked about at the moment is what we call the no excuse Section 21s. Because Section 21, you serve it, you don't have to explain why you're doing it. But what they're saying is they're going to get rid of that, and you're going to have to explain why you're doing it. So that's me. I've touched on a tiny bit of legislation. I hope I haven't bored you all silly. But if you've got any questions about what I've said or anything else that you've got on your mind that you want to get out, it's all in here, 16 years worth, so fire away.
Sorry, go back to fees you mentioned. I know that there've been that ban on fees for tenants. How did you say you have to write them into your agreement?
Yeah.
So any fee that you
There's certain fees that you can charge for and there's certain fees you can't. There's still firming up what fees are, but we've got a rough idea of what we can charge for. The things that you're talking about are like if you're late with your rent and you charge them a fee for writing them a letter, if they get locked out. I've got a list, I'm quite happy to share.
So it's basically the upfront fees, isn't it, that you charge for the vetting things that you can't
Upfront
pass
are
on?
definitely going. So, for example, the administration fees we call it,
Yeah.
for carrying out credit checks, dealing with the tenant, drawing up the paperwork, etc., etc., you will not be able to charge for. But there are some what we would call ongoing charges that we may be able to charge the tenants for. Like I said, I'm still firming everything up, but my view is get it in your tenancy agreement now, and you can argue it later. You know, because if it's not there, you're stuffed. You know, it's not a huge amount of money, but we're all business people, and that little bit of money of turning out at, like I said, 10 o'clock on a Friday to let them in, it all adds up.
So those upfront fees then, who pays them? The landlord pays for those, or?
No, we're not really, you know, everybody's got a business plan, and everybody is an agent. We're planning now for how we're going to deal with this. We'll be fine. I've come through a recession already. I've been doing this 15 years. We'll be okay. It's the big corporates to be worried about because they do charge so much. They're going to lose 30 to 40% of their bottom line.
You'll find a lot of big agents will probably pack up their
Yeah.
because of it, because estate agents really are a short-term business. That they're only interested in selling houses and getting big lumps of sum of money up front. They're not interested in long-term models like we are.
I loved your analogy when we spoke a few months ago when you were saying about how the dating analogy. So the
One night stand against
against a marriage.
Yeah.
And I love that analogy, and it really does explain things
Would
really
you
well.
agree that, Stuart? Estate agencies a one-night stand and lettings is a marriage. See, I'm dragging the estate agent and embarrassing me in public now. Sorry, mate.
One of the other things about corporates is client money protection. There are talks that they may not even be able to get it. So
That's what I was-
Sequence,
yeah.
Countrywide, Hearts, etc. Because of their financial exposure, they may not be able to get client money protection. So they may have
You
to come out the
think about the amount of money they have in their client account. If they've got
Because it'll all be one
millions of
big
pounds,
pot.
it'd be one
Nationally,
great
like
big pot.
nationally or whatever.
So
or
the
regionally.
risk is so much higher.
So when you do get a new, and someone new wants to rent your property, you've obviously got to have these checks done.
Yeah.
And they have to, there's obviously a cost involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay it?
You,
The landlord
Well,
has
if
to
you're
pay
a private landlord and you're doing it yourself, I mean, you probably have. I mean, most private landlords tend not to charge a fee to a tenant. I'm not sure.
No, I always had an agency just do that bit for me,
Yeah.
and then as far as I know, then they charge the tenant that money. So what you're saying is that
What you'll probably find will happen is you may find that the agent's fees will rise.
They will.
Yeah,
no doubt.
and as on a
Oh, I
knock-on
see.
effect, and this is the reason, this is like they've not thought this through really, because that'll happen. So to combat that problem, the rent will go up. So that then is going to be less affordable for that tenant.
It's ironic really what they're
Crazy, absolutely crazy.
The thing to consider is this: Scotland started this. It was brought into legislation in 2015.
A few years back now.
So, and then, in order to justify doing the same throughout the rest of the country, Shelter then said to the government, look, we banned fees, rents haven't risen as a consequence, so it's going to work. But what they failed to realise is that they only sampled the immediate sort of 9 months after the fee ban. So consequently, there was no real increases in that period, because invariably if they're on a 6 to 12 month tenancy agreement, you can't put the rent up until that term's up. It's now that rents in Scotland have risen, because fees have gone, agents are having to charge the landlords more in order to cover the extra.
Another interesting nugget from Scotland, and whether this will follow down the A1, we're not quite sure about yet. Scotland are having an absolute nightmare now, where tenants can basically move into a property and then, pardon French, bugger off after a month with no reason or explanation. So
Because
Scotland,
they abolished the 6-month tenancy. There is
Yeah,
no
right,
time limit
yeah.
in Scotland anymore
Yeah.
as of last
and
December,
some
I
of my
think. Is that
Scottish
right?
colleagues are having a nightmare where a tenant moves in, I don't like it, he moves out, and then they're back to square one again. But we don't know about properties, probably not worth knowing.
sorry, me again.
It's all right.
I'm quite new.
I'll pay you later.
DPS are driving me nuts at the moment, as I said to you. So we're still trying to get the money back for this deposit for the work that was done. So I didn't put my deposit with, excuse me, DPS this time. When the new tenant moved, and I've gone for this thing, I remembered it, called Reposit, which is like an insurance. So I've gone with that now. which seems to be quite, I've spoken to a couple of other people and they think it's quite a good idea. But on my lease that the tenant's got, it says your deposit has been lodged with DPS. Does that mean I've got to change that contract now? Because it obviously isn't with the DPS.
Is this a new tenant?
Yeah.
I'd be very careful with that, because what we're talking about prescribed information, when that tenant moved in, what were they told when they moved in?
Well, they were told it was a DPS because that was for the letting agency.
Right, I'd be taking that up with your letting agent, because realistically they've probably served the wrong prescribed information to that tenant.
Well, it's only because of the problems I was then having trying to get this money out of DPS, and I thought, what other options have I got? 'Cause I don't
Was
wanna-
it ever registered with the DPS?
What, this
The
deposit?
deposit, you know, you're saying your tenant's agreement says DPS. Was it ever registered with the DPS?
No.
That could be problematic then. I would do something about that as swiftly as you can and hope the tenant doesn't notice. You need to be serving the prescribed information to the tenant about where that deposit is and when it was registered or protected, because if it's insurance based, it's probably in your account or the agent's
No, he's
account.
he's got this. He's gone through the process of filling the form, so he knows it's with deposit. Because with
Right.
deposit, the tenant has to fill it in.
Yeah,
So he's done all that, and
right.
so he's agreed to that. He was quite happy because that
What
means
you
he gets.
probably want to do is, because what happened to us, we changed from what's called the TDS, the dispute service, with some of our tenants and moved everything to the DPS. What we did is, because their tenancy agreements were on the TDS tenancy agreement, we sent them a side letter with the prescribed information of the DPS.
That's why I wanted to like a caveat or
Yeah,
something.
so
Can I
that
talk
you
to you
should
about
be
that
okay
later
with
then?
that then.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else anybody wants to ask, or has got any thoughts? Or
I'll just add something to help out a little bit. I'll just stand up for this bit.
Steve runs the Milk
I run the
Kings
Milk Kings franchise.
so he's just
Uh,
sneaked into
one of the big problems, and Ellie's quite eloquently told us how much it costs her for loss of rent, is to get your rent protected. And the best way to do it is to come to Belvoir and get our guaranteed rent protection, because you're 100% guaranteed for your rent until you get possession of the property.
The thing to remember with it as well is that people go out and buy packages of rent insurance, yeah? But the thing to remember is that it's just an insurance, it just covers you for the rent. But there's so much more around it, because someone's got to go out and serve the notices, got to check the property, make sure they've moved out, done this, that and the other, and it'll be down to you to do that, it's your time. With Belvoir's warranties, we call it, yeah, there's an element of protection in that, but we actually work for you and do that work for you, so it's included in that.
Anyway, we're not here to sell, so. Has anybody else got any other questions?